Hey, how's it going, guys? Sensus here, and today we're going to be doing a Subtlety Rogue PvP guide for Legion. I'm going to be going over talents, honor talents, artifact abilities, openers and rotations, and just some basic information about the spec itself. Now, one thing I won't be doing though is going over the spell changes because I already did that in my Subtlety Rogue PvP pre-patch guide. So I'm just going to leave a link up on the screen so you guys can go check that out if you want to go check out some of the spell changes. Nothing's really changed about the spec since pre-patch except Shadow Strike only has a 15-yard range now as opposed to a 25-yard range. But everything else is pretty much the same. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, starting off with talent setups. Your basic cookie cutter setup should include Master of Subtlety, Subterfuge, Vigor, Soothing Darkness, Strike from the Shadows or Prey on the Weak, Premeditation, and Master of Shadows. Starting off with Master of Subtlety, it causes all your attacks made from stealth and 6 seconds after stealth breaks to have a 10% damage increase. Next up we have Subterfuge. It makes it so you could use stealth abilities 3 seconds after stealth breaks, and it also increases the duration of Shadow Dance by 2 seconds. Next up we have Vigor. It increases your energy pool by 50, and it also increases your energy regen by 10%. Next we have Soothing Darkness, which heals you for 3% of your maximum health every second while stealth is active and while Shadow Dance is active. Next up we have Strike from the Shadows. Now this causes you to daze your target for 5 seconds whenever you use Shadow Strike on them. Now typically I'm going to run with this whenever I'm up against some sort of caster comp, but typically outside of that I'm going to take Prey on the Weak to get the increased damage from my Cheap Shot and Kidney Shot. Both are viable ways to go, but that's just how I do it. Next we have Premeditation, which causes your Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike to generate an additional combo point. And lastly we have Master of Shadows, which causes you to gain 30 energy instantly whenever you enter stealth or pop Shadow Dance. And with that, let's move on to honor talents. Alright, so your basic cookie cutter honor setup should include Gladiator's Medallion, or Relentless if you play an Orc, Reinforced Armor, Maneuverability, Shadow's Caress, Cold Blood, and Phantom Assassin. Starting off with Gladiator's Medallion, it pretty much just reduces the cooldown on your trinket from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. Now let's talk a little bit about Relentless. The reason why I say it's viable to go Relentless as an Orc is because Relentless reduces crowd control effects by 25%. And this actually stacks to an extent with the Orc racial passive Hardiness, which already reduces all stuns by 20%. Now it won't reduce all stuns by 45% like it might seem, it's more so 40%, but that's still really solid. Next we have Reinforced Armor, which increases your health pool by 10%. Next up we have Maneuverability, which causes Sprint to suppress all movement impairing effects for 4 seconds when used. Next up we have Shadow's Caress, which causes most of your abilities to have a 30% reduced cooldown whenever you're in stealth or Shadow Dancing. Next we have Cold Blood. It's an instant ability, has a 1 minute cooldown, and can only be used while in stealth or Shadow Dancing. When activated, it'll cause your next Cheap Shot or Shadow Strike to deal 12% of the target's total health in shadow damage. And finally, the last honor talent we're going to talk about is Phantom Assassin, and it increases the duration of Shadow Dance by 3 seconds, and it'll also automatically put up symbols of death whenever you pop Shadow Dance or whenever you enter stealth. And with that, let's move on to the Subtlety Rogue artifact weapon. Alright, so starting off with Subtlety's artifact weapon ability, Gormaw's Bite. It has a 1 minute cooldown. It'll award you 3 combo points, deal shadow damage to your target, slow your target's movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds, and it'll also grant you 30 energy over 6 seconds. Now let's take some time to talk about each artifact weapon trait, starting off with the Legion Blade. Now this trait isn't even on live yet, but it'll increase all your damage done by 5%. Next up we have Finality, and the easiest way for me to explain this trait is, say for example you use Nightblade or Eviscerate on your target. The next Nightblade or Eviscerate that you use will have increased damage. Next we have Demon's Kiss, which increases the damage dealt by Nightblade. Precision Strike increases the damage done by Shadow Strike. Second Shuriken causes Shuriken Storm to have a chance per target to deal additional physical damage to that target. Energetic Stabbing causes Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike to have a chance to refund energy. Ghost Armor increases your chance to dodge by 10%. Flickering Shadows causes Sprint to activate Vanish after 3 seconds with no cooldown if you deal no new damage and if you take no new incoming damage. Embrace of Darkness grants you a shield equal to your attack power that absorbs damage whenever you enter stealth. The Quiet Knife increases backstab damage by 10%. Cat-like reflexes increases your dodge chance and makes you immune to falling damage. Akari's Soul. After you use Cheap Shot or Shadow Strike, Akari's Soul will appear 4 seconds later and deals shadow damage to your target. Soul Shadows increases Shadow Blade's duration by 10 seconds. Shadow Nova does AoE shadow damage to all nearby targets. Gut Ripper increases the crit chance of Eviscerate. And finally, Shadow Fangs increases all physical and shadow damage by 4%. Now in terms of pathing, I personally went in a clockwise route to unlock finality first because that's super important. And with that, let's move on to openers and rotations. Well, that pretty much does it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If this video helps you out, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. I really appreciate it. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.